as again the Zillion out of nowhere coming from Talon. So
okay,
I love it.
That's a bit weird.
We might see. What if there's gonna be the Ziggs pick that we've been seeing from the past matches of Apex, as Talon has already banned out a target ban, which is quite. We've never seen the Zillion ever in the PCS, and I'm starting to get a little bit curious. Oh wait,
hello Talon, hello. These bans, are we just like getting rid of all the pocket picks of Apex? Were they like, wait, we haven't seen Apex play for like half a year. Wait, this guy's like really good. Let's just ban out all his pocket picks and just leave everything up and open?
Insane. So does AHQ decide to ban out LeBlanc instead on their side, or leave that open? Unless Talon is going to be very brave enough to just get that first pick LeBlanc, or maybe even get that first pick Misfortune, as that has been the key pick when it comes to the victory, since again, there's a lot of value and safety when it comes to the Misfortune. Let's see what Talon decides to pick up.
But we now have like a lot of like, you know, open power picks available. Now the fact that Talon has just banned away these two niche picks as well as the Graves jungle. No Philios is going to be available, but that does mean on the side of Talon, are we going to see a first pick Azir just to get that onto Candy to take it away from Apex?
I love it. I love it very much. And
they don't.
What is this series?
I do not see. Is this a thing? Is
this a thing? It could be the thing. I mean, we already see a Valkos ban and a Zillion ban.
Like, true.
It could be. There's 10 seconds left.
Okay. No, we're not seeing a blind. Okay, there we go. That makes a lot more sense. It's going to be a Misfortune getting locked in for the side of AHQ. That makes a little bit more sense, too. It'd be Apex on a Ziggs, and we've seen a couple Ziggs picks pop up during playoffs here in PCS.
Yeah, it has been working really well, especially on Apex's side. He has been, he played that during, I believe, during the LMS playoffs, even once at Worlds. But we'll have to see, as HQ is sort of teasing Apex's champion pool a little bit. Talon, in the meantime, I'm honestly getting chills right now watching this, the draft at the moment, since it's a little bit exciting, as Talon is going to opt for possibly the usual that they've been saving up for the playoffs, which is the Kalista Taric. That I believe has worked twice in the entirety of this playoffs. But we'll have to see whether or not that's going to be successful once more.
It's been a very all-or-nothing combo when it comes out from Talon, and the times it doesn't work are pretty similar to what we just saw. So I'm interested to see whether or not they want to try this again, especially into a team fight where we saw, as long as Wako is able to, you know, just wait out the duration of the Taric ultimate, it's pretty much fine for them to just wait it out and then pop the, you know, ultimate immediately after to try and burn them down. The Jarvan pick up here for River is an interesting one. It's kind of been one of his more niche off picks when it comes to his pull in general. He did get a quadra kill on it during the last series we saw Talon play, but there it is. Ziggs is going to get locked in here for AHQ.
Basically, Talon still decided to, okay, let's ban out the Velcos and Zillion. We don't want to deal with that, but they're definitely expecting this Ziggs pickup on the side of Apex, definitely. So now, what does AHQ decide to ban? Do they want to take out Taric and Thresh away from Kaiwing this time around?
Be a possibility, as we're going to see the Taric actually get banned out. So we're not going to see that combo paired alongside the Kalista. For Talon, do they want to try and get rid of? We could just see another Yuumi ban, like we saw in the other games here. Just try and take that one away from Ysera and not allow that Misfortune to just get buffed up and have a magical cat, you know, floating beside her the entirety of the game. Also, that's a bit disgusting when you pair it up with a Trundle, as it can just run you down. So just some respect being shown here on the side of Talon.
Yeah, it definitely works out well, considering that it has been, now the Nautilus getting banned out, does Talon decide to possibly remove the Thresh? That means if they want some sort of support hard engage, they have to choose between, again, fall back into the Thresh Leona, perhaps, as these two picks have been very key to start the fights especially when come late game when things are a little bit more difficult to initiate.
All right, so there we go. Nautilus being banned out. No Thresh either, so Kaiwing won't be able to have that like we saw in the first game of the series. Does mean, though, if you take a look at what's available, there's still the Braum, there's still the Bard. That has been a pocket go-to. There's also Leona, if AHQ wanted to try and run that one back again, as there isn't a Thresh to respond to it. It is going to get locked in here for you, Sarah.
Do they get the Braum on their side to try and counter the bullet time, at least a little bit of value away? But we'll have to see, as they do need another strong engage to pair it up with River here on this Jarvan. Renekton will still be the first pick for Hanabi. He did get an unofficial quadra kill in the first game, but now, you know, Bard is open, so why not put that for Kaiwing?
Okay, we'll see whether or not Kaiwing wants to go ahead and lock this in. This is very much a, you know, Tempered Fate catch-out kind of composition. Pair it up with the Cataclysm to try and lock down members, or do we just get the run back onto his, you know, go-to pocket Alistar? And I think that is going to get locked in.
That seems to be the plan, as it's actually pretty good, because Zenith Blade Ysera going into either of your carries, then you just try to push or knock them back up, which is pretty good considering that it has been Ysera hasn't been having the fun time right now with this Leona pick, but since the Braum isn't selected, there is a lot of unblockable key team fight ultimates on the side of AHQ.
Hope you're ready for the late game here, as this is already kind of showing ourselves to be a pretty late composition on the side of AHQ. You're going to have an Ornn that's just going to be weighing things out to get the upgrades for that Ziggs and the Misfortune. You got ultimates to clear out waves. It's going to be very much on Talon to be the ones that I think are to be the proactive ones when it comes to Game 3 here. And that has been something that Talon has had difficulties with. We saw them do very well during Game 1 where they found the opportunities to shut down AHQ. But then Game 2 where they needed to kind of do the same thing, it didn't pan out as well.
Yeah, and it is definitely AHQ slowing down the bleed, managing to get a few return kills here and there, despite having not winning the early phases of the game. So with that, AHQ has that momentum on their side, as they did have that victory. And again, Apex second time around for the PCS for AHQ on the Ziggs pick, garnering 2 interesting bans against him.
We'll see if this game goes the distance, and the series does as well. It is only Game 3. Last time we saw these two teams clash, it was a best-of-5 that went all the way. Talon were able to reverse sweep. This time it looks like it's going to be a little bit more even, each team with a game in hand. We'll see who's able to take the hammer leading into Game 4 as we load on into the Rift.
Now I'm curious, whoever has the Azir, because so far it has been working out, and we were talking about it off stream whether or not it's going to get banned this time around for game number 2. But it seems to me both teams have a different plan in mind, and we'll have to see how this Ziggs pick works for Apex.
Yeah, getting a little bit more when it comes to his pool in particular, like we saw. He had himself a disgusting Azir performance in Game 2. Now we're seeing him once again onto the Ziggs, something that we saw a couple times out of him last season while he was with AHQ during the LMS. He's also, you know, had a couple, you know, Ryze, Cassiopeia picks as well. This one, though, Ziggs has been a little bit more popular, actually being picked up a couple more times across international regions. We've seen him pop up a couple instances, I think once or twice over in the LPL playoffs. I think also once or twice over in LCK. Really likes just trying to keep the game going as long as possible, and then once you get that first item upgrade off the Ornn, his bombs start to do a unexpected amount of damage, because you're still expecting, oh, he still needs, you know, an item or two before that really comes online. No, if you rush that death cap as a second item into a Ornn upgrade, it's just a massive spike of damage, even if you want to upgrade the Ludens as well.
Yeah, and he kind of works like air quote Karthus when certain 2v2 fights happen, or possibly maybe a gank Kongya at top side rather, and things maybe they aren't able to finish off a kill. The Ziggs ult is definitely up there to try and help, and that's him trying to get more assists and kills to boost him up a little bit more, especially considering his really good wave clear as well, in the form of the bombs, and good escape when it comes to that satchel, and a lot of burst as well for sieges later on. So Talon should really be careful on about this Ziggs threat that Apex is now holding for AHQ.
Yeah, because there's always possibility if, like, you know, Talon are able to get a couple towers early during this game. But if they lose, like, one mid-game team fight, there could be such a massive swing of gold. If Apex is still alive afterwards and he has an item or two, he can just knock down turrets rather fast with his passive and, like you mentioned, the satchel charge, where it can just execute towers when he wishes to. And they gotta be a little bit careful, especially if they really wanted to. They could get a little cheesy and they could go for like a Rift Herald really early, trying to get a knockdown immediately and try and funnel as much gold as they possibly could into Apex on the Ziggs.
And that could be the plan in mind. This could be an early gank, no vision actually for the side of Talon.
Gonna be a knock up here. Unified stepping a little bit too far forward. Kaiwing, unfortunately, he ends up trying to go back into the fight to at least save Unified, but that's gonna be first blood going in favor of AHQ.
3-minute gank coming from Kongya as well. It's usually River that we see that make the first move, especially when we saw Kongya not being felt as much on their first series of today. But they want to get that head start against Talon and punish them for being a little bit too forward in the lane.
Yeah, and to be honest, this is kind of what I wish I saw from Trundles maybe a little bit earlier on during the games here, is that's an actual gank coming out of Kongya before 5 minutes. A little bit nuts. Able to at least punish the fact that Unified and Kaiwing were being aggressive. That also means both summoners for Kaiwing off the table, and well, they might be doing it again here as Unified's too far forward, and Talon's bot lane is just going to get abused here if they're not careful. That's going to be a teleport, though, coming out from both sides. Kaiwing going to be the main target. He gets taken down. Hanabi wants to try and answer, but it's a lost cost at this point, as now Unified is too far forward, doesn't get knocked up, but he's forced to flash away. And Talon getting a little bit panicky here in the bot lane.
Double teleport, but AHQ does have that numbers advantage considering Kaiwing already has consumed most of his summoner spells, and with Unified carrying that cleanse, not that heal, then it's going to make it a little bit difficult to try and escape the gank the second time around. And nicely done. That's, again, Talon did not expect this.
No, it's just a quick repeat gank, and I think it's pretty fair to say that maybe you should expect this to come out here. You're only going to be an Alistar without a flash or an exhaust, so he's pretty much just caught out once again, and it forces Hanabi to have to burn his teleport, which, in all honesty, he didn't need to. The gank was already lost. So for the side of Talon, it's just a little bit extra bleeding that they kind of wish they didn't have to lose out here, as that means, you know, Hanabi would have maybe rather just kept that teleport to go back to lane for free.
Yeah, considering that it was, just as you mentioned, a lost cause already, and now Unified had to use Flash as well.
Oh, meanwhile, mid lane, we did see the Zenith Blade did connect. Ysera went underneath the tower, though, because Candy was able to shuffle back to safety. Meanwhile, top lane, it looks like Kongyu was looking for a possible gank opportunity, but Hanabi was already pushed in underneath his tower, and he's soon going to have level 6, I believe, on the next wave, so it's going to be rather difficult to try and dive the Renekton reliably, as Apex just going to get that quick push here in mid lane.
Ysera non-stop sticking around here in the mid lane. In the meantime, as Unified and Kaiwing has managed to get their first back, and that's going to be a Vamp Scepter at least for Unified to try and survive this lane a little bit longer. And we've seen earlier that Control War didn't exactly help at all, as the Domain of Ice just really boosting that Trundle to the lane quicker, and Unified and Kaiwing was just too advanced. But now we'll have to see whether or not Kaiwing is still able to do the usual, roaming with River, as again, Ziv is getting chunked down, actually.
Yeah, he's starting to lose out a bit here on CS, too. This is not a fun matchup, it seems, for him, as he's down actually almost half of Hanabi's CS in total. River is spotted out on a ward if he wanted to try and go for this dive. Be a little bit sketchy. He doesn't even have Cataclysm available, so unfortunately for him, Civ should be able to keep himself safe. And Hanabi, unfortunately, won't be able to really expand this gold lead up in top lane, as Civ is actually starting to be able to regen enough and trading pretty efficiently against Hanabi, even being down as much CS as he is. Kongya even looking for Candy, as Candy has forced to give up pressure around this dragon.
Yeah, and River was in a hella hurry. He didn't have time to remove that control ward at the tri-brush, because he really needed to want to get back there, just in case he's set up for a potential counter gank, as AHQ seemed to be setting up for a potential dive. So it is going to be the dragon instead, as AHQ will win that one.
Here we go. Hanabi going rather aggressive here. Pops the ultimate. Civ does have flash available. Hanabi is able to at least get that out of his ultimate activation. Should be able to actually push in that wave in top lane, and that forces Ziv to have to go back without a teleport being available.
And that's a pretty good trade if you ask me, just removing that flash at least to possibly set up a gank coming from River, as he did try to attempt initially, but unfortunately his duty calls towards bot side to prevent any sort of funny business from AHQ. But now things are a little bit stable for the side of at least mid lane, between Apex and Candy CS-wise. But for Unified and Kaiwing, the first two initial ganks really created an impact for Unified and Kaiwing to be a little bit more reserved.
River trying to path up toward the top side to see whether or not they can try and catch out Civ, and looks like they might be able to with no flash on that Ornn. He's kind of a sitting duck as he's going to show it himself. Doesn't get knocked up there by the flag drag combo. Call of the Forge God is going to be there. Ends up popping his ultimate, but unfortunately, he's going to get ripped apart here, finally, as Hanabi's able to secure the kill. Kongyu maybe at least trying to interrupt what he can. Pops his ultimate, flashing on forward, looking for the 2v1 here, and unfortunately, Hanabi is just going to try and do what he can to save his jungler, of all people. I'm not too sure about that one. Maybe it would have been better to at least get the kill back on over, as that's going to be the ultimate popped in. Kaiwing actually going for the full engage back onto Ysera instead of trying to interrupt the bullet time here for Wako. And Wako looking for that double up here on the Misfortune. Going to go on forward, ends up popping it. Has to use his cleanse as heal as well. And with the exhaust, it's enough to dissuade the damage from coming through on the side of AHQ. And it's a 1 for 3 across the map, as AHQ still stands strong here with 1,000 gold lead.
I love the confidence at bot side, but let's take a look at top lane again. So the timing is perfect. Immediately when AHQ, Kongya saw that top side is getting attacked, he immediately went over. Ziv did his job. Like, he managed to chunk and allow Hanabi to soak a bunch of tower hits to the point that Kongya, gets that subjugate in. But unfortunately, he stole River's stats. It's not enough to actually drain River completely with maybe the red buff. But still, a kill is a kill towards Hanabi even.
So there you go. Hanabi is going to actually have enough to also picked up a call pretty early on during the lane phase as well on his first back. He's not going to have the Black Cleaver completed. But so far, so good, at least on the side of AHQ. We're going to be waiting for, those items to come in, especially for this Misfortune and the Ziggs when it comes to the team fights. I think Kaiwing and Unified, to be frank, I feel like they're a little bit shaky when it comes to this lane in particular. They're finding themselves now down 20 CS, levels down as well. Kongyu's just made pretty much a camping spot of this bot lane outside of that one gank we saw toward the top side of the map, where it feels like they're being a little bit outclassed when they're in this matchup.
Yeah, and it again all started with Kongya's presence at bot side countless of times, and he's doing it again. And there's no cleanse available anymore for Unified, and exhaust as well, not there for Kaiwing. River is here for the counter gank, though. We'll have to see.
Apex.
They're gonna start something.
He's sneaking around. If he gets close enough to that tower, he's gonna be able to take it down with the satchel, and there we go. First break gold, as well as the turret plating going in favor of AHQ to start things off at the 11-minute mark.
And in the meantime, what does Talon decide to take off of this? Because they definitely wanted a challenge, a dive perhaps, that Kongya wanted to set up, but it wasn't really needed since Apex was already there to remove that tower. instantly. And there's not a lot of trade coming from Candy as well. So AHQ getting a lot of the moves, the initial rotations, and winning them without having Talon to exchange anything off from the map.
Candy keeps getting chipped out here by these bouncing bombs on the side of Apex. He's been able to, again, get some decent poke there on Candy. It's going to force him to have to back off. We do have the Rift Herald now spawned in. So both of these squads, we'll see the priorities there. AHQ have already rotated their bot lane and have already gotten priority on the top side of the map. And maybe we're just going to try and get a free push in, maybe get some more turret plates. And this time around, it's a bit scary to think that Unify is already finding himself 30 CS down in this matchup against the Misfortune. Wako has already picked up his first item as well. He's going to start working toward that Infinity Edge, not even picking up boots. They're just saying, all right, get as much damage as possible, and we'll try and go for these fights immediately. It looks like Talon are going to try and respond at least with a Infernal Drake themselves.
Yeah, and it's understandable. Again, in terms of AoE, AHQ and with Apex on the Ziggs and as well as this Misfortune, they do have that edge. And as they haven't really taken off in the laning phase, they have to respect the fact that they are not yet prepared to fight. So they have to just trade objectives here and there and be prepared for later. But as the game progresses, Wako and Apex are definitely going to be scary, considering Ziv will get tankier as the game progresses. Ysera is going to get tankier too. And we talked about backline access, and therefore Hanabi will have to be doing flanking duties once more. Question is, will he be able to survive as he...
Yeah, because on top of that too, for Talon, of all the clouds, of all the drakes that could have spawned for Soul, it's going to be a Cloud Soul. And if they give up these Cloud Dragons over to AHQ, that just means Apex, his Mega Inferno Bomb, it's just going to be up more frequently. That thing's going to come off cooldown mid-fight, the way it's going, depending on what his rune setup is. And on top of that too, they're going to go ahead, siege in onto the towers, get as much gold as they possibly can, as turret plating will fall here in less than a minute. So they claim a little bit more gold across the map and find themselves 2,000 ahead of Talon.
Yeah, that Cloud Drake will definitely be handy, not only just as you mentioned with, you know, the Ziggs ult, but also as well for key ults such as Bullet Time, where we see a couple of teams fight at Dragon and then suddenly move towards over at Baron, at the Baron pit. So it's definitely going to be handy for HQ, and for Talon, they definitely want to deny that sort of deal, considering that most of their ultimates really revolve around utility, like the Emperor's Divide and the Fate's Call, in comparison to Apex's and Wako, which is definitely pure bloody damage.
And Loons is complete here for Apex, so he's going to start doing decent chunks. Candy actually opted in for the Gnasher's Tooth to get a little bit more consistent DPS during the team fights, instead of just getting that poke early on. We sometimes see the Loons get rushed here from the Azirs. Bot lane is just Hanabi and Civ farming away. We'll give it to Hanabi. He's actually been able to establish himself a 2-level lead over Civ. Doesn't matter. Civ is just an Orin. He's happy just farming away. He doesn't matter if he loses lane. He's just going to be there for those massive Call of the Forge gods. And on top of that, too, when you consider the gold for Talon, a decent amount of their gold advantage when you look at lanes is pretty much all on Hanabi. He's up about 1,700 gold, whereas everybody else, the carries on the side of AHQ, they're pretty far ahead.
Exactly. It is due to the fact that Apex is always poking out Candy with the bombs. And again, the early pre-5-minute ganks from Kongya at bot side. So River manages to secure at least that scuttler for additional vision and control. And now, HQ here at mid.
And we've seen it before. This is easy, but in comes the engage on the side of Talon. They want to try and go for this. Hanabi just diving in onto the back line. The bomb finds its target onto multiple members, but they take down the Misfortune. In comes the re-engage as Candy's able to get a decent amount of damage. Unify gets the red reset, and now Civ is going to be the next target. And there you go. Talon needed to pull the trigger, and they finally do in mid lane.
Beautifully done, and it's all about catching your opponent by surprise, and it's definitely working. Apex managed to survive as he escaped the Cataclysm with a satchel, I believe, but unfortunately you had Wako pretty much trapped between many melee players from the side of Talon.
You saw Kaiwing also engaging alongside River, and Hanabi's able to also get on top of the misfortune. A lot was used, but luckily for Talon, it does pay off because they really needed to try and find some gold back into their pockets and start to threaten AHQ at least somewhat during this early mid-game before this Ziggs and Misfortune come online.
And the best part is, if you get that initial jump on towards Misfortune, then there's not really enough space to even unleash your bullet time. So this was definitely stacking up CC and knockups. You get River with a flag and drag, you have the Fate's Call, you have the Emperor's Divide, and even you top it off with the Alistair here with a chain CC too. So with that said, they can definitely leave certain squishy targets sort of useless at fights if you just chain CC everything.
There we go. Top laners are going to go back up toward the top lane for now, as Hanabi's starting to sit on that 50 CS lead. He's got half a Flame Horizon going. So that Renekton also able to find some gold, is able to start working toward what appears to be a Bork he wants to go into next to really try and threaten Civ as much as possible when it comes to the side lane pressure. Meanwhile, you also have the Kalista, who's been able to find a kill and an assist. It means the Bork is online, she can start working toward her Runaans, and looks like Talon are going to be able to find their first tower of the game.
Yeah, and it seems to be a trade instead for top lane pressure versus at the Dragon, as Talon has managed to get at least the second Dragon of the game, so it's not really too pressing for Talon to sort of deny that, especially that they just came off from a fight. Cooldowns are not yet back online, and they definitely need that if they want to eliminate Wako from the get-go.
You see, though, AHQ, with that presence, they're able to just go ahead and just litter the bot side jungle of Talon with a bunch of wards. Try and just keep track of where River is trying to path here. Maybe they can try and catch Candy on a rotation. I guess, you know, you got to factor in, what do you value a little bit more? Do you value just getting more gold onto Hanabi on this Renekton so he can try and carry? You heard the teams during the pre-show. They were feeling, all right, you know what, if Hanabi can get ahead, we have nothing to worry about. Well, I think you do, especially if you're going to start giving over Cloud Drakes, especially over to a Ziggs.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen how scary Hanabi can be on this Renekton. He has been adjusting a few builds here and there, considering I think the first game was Black Cleaver into Visage and Guardian Angel, but now he's going for a different route to add a little bit more of that dual potential and a little bit more damage coming into the team fights for later. Rift Herald has spawned though, so for AHQ, Kongyi is actually nearby as well. We'll have to see how this pans out as everybody is just converging over here.
All right, here we go. Teleports are going to come out here on the side of Talon. It's just going to be Hanabi. Rift Herald is secured. River will be able to pick up the eye. Engage comes out from Kaiwing. Wanted to try and jump into the fight. He's going to be brought back to safety by Unify. Call the Forge God does not connect onto any target. Candy also sitting nearby. Wants to maybe get a flank off here, but Kongyi is going to be looking for a chase. Unify trying to kite back as much as he can. Flag drag is there. Bomb comes out. Not going to land onto any target. And Talon should be able to get to safety. They use everything they can on the side of AHQ to try and catch out Unified. He's only able to get to safety, having to use his cleanse.
No summoner spells for the side of Unified, so now they are forced to concede this top side tower. As we can see a lot of health pings actually coming from the side of Talon, and it seems to me for AHQ, they will just decide to back away instead of pushing more towards top side and would get the reset instead.
So there we go. Talon are able to secure themselves a Rift Herald before the Baron spawns up. Means River can try and knock down possibly this mid lane tower if they're able to find successful gank opportunity. Maybe they try and path down here in bot lane. It allows them to try and open up the midsection of the map with this in their back pocket if they're able to find a good fight and try and force Apex to have to start to play elsewhere on the map and not just be playing, you know, ping pong in the mid lane.
Yeah, and I feel like that's the reason why Talon has been moving around the map now, as they want to take out the last outer tower, which is at bot side. And with that said, Unified is on duty anyways to clear down the mid lane. And yeah, we haven't exactly seen any sort of high impact plays just yet coming from Apex on the Ziggs, as during the fights, they actually get bursted down. So Apex is just forced to concede and back away. And now that's another tower down in favor of Talon.
So there we go. It's going to be Talon's second tower of the game. Still not able to equal out the gold lead. They're darn close. It's 4-4. I think we're going to go a little bit back into a bit of a lull state here, the best way to put it. Because unfortunately, that's what happens when you have a Ziggs as well as a Misfortune. You can just look to try and clear out waves as long as you wish, as that's a big amount of gold advantage over there onto the Misfortune. That's 2,000 actually on Wako alone. So if Talon are able to actually get on top of this Misfortune and actually burst them down immediately, there's a good chance they can win the ensuing fight.
And that is definitely the win condition for Talon. And as we saw earlier, it worked out. Burst down Wako, and AHQ just start to fall apart. And with that, Wako not carrying a cleanse, considering there's a lot of heavy CC on the side of Talon, and for Ysera, we'll have to get at least the first jump to catch Talon off guard. But if Talon initiates first, then it could get a little bit tricky for Wako, and has to make sure that all summoner spells are up before engaging near in a fight.
So we go back here. It's just going to be Candy at least trying to clear out the top side of the map. Lots of pings actually coming out from Talon. Are they considering looking for this with Candy? I think he just wants to try and clear out the vision. Ysera is also nearby. Kallista's in the mid lane, but you also have Kongya, which very good when it comes to interrupting the Kallista, just having a Trundle pillar. It's not a fun time for Kallista. AHQ are looking to threaten, though, for their second Cloud Drake of the game. That would give them 20% cooldown reduction on the ultimate. So you can already see Candy starting to get chunked out here by the bouncing bombs if he's not careful. Let's see, get started. River. Is he going to look for the steal? Has flash available. Hanabi also nearby, wants to jump on in. It goes on over. It is secured there by Kong. You call the Forge God. Use only onto one member here. So it looks like Talon aren't going to lose out on any members. Candy has to go back to base. Luckily for them, there isn't really a mid lane to take, as the Talon was already taken. Candy's just going to try and cut himself back over to at least clear out the wave. That second tier tower might get taken here if they're not careful.
They're still not backing down. They might get intercepted.
All right, Talon actually want to try and go for this. Coming on the front line, in comes the Call of Forge God, not available, but the shutdown is there as they take down Candy. Talon, they end up running directly into the trap. A nice knock-up, though, is able to find the shutdown onto the Misfortune. Kaiwing and Unified leading the charge. It's a triple kill for this Callista, and if she's left unchecked, you're going to have issues. And Talon are able to turn around what looked like a risky fight.
And here I thought it was AHQ gonna win the whole team fight, considering that the carries were in such an awkward position, and Candy was immediately bursted down by Apex here, as Ysera was the one who started the fight first and first divide, but unfortunately Ysera went back, or rather, unfortunately, it was Apex that managed to finish off the kill. But here's the thing, Unified was re-hitting all this time.
Yeah, no, and this is actually one of the instances where I've seen a Callista actually be able to get as much damage as she did without having a Rune Dance. That fight would have been even faster if he had that available to him. Because he got shut down so early on during the game, he wasn't actually able to finish it in time for that fight. And he gained so much off that, he's able to actually finish it off. On top of that, picked up a BF sword. So Unified's pretty much back online when you go in toe-to-toe with Wako if they're able to interrupt the bullet time.
And this sort of cancels out, just leaves it invalid, the efforts that Kongya did at the first 5 minutes of the game to get Wako ahead. And now it's not even equalized, it's even greater for Unified in comparison to Wako earlier on. And you can see how Wako struggled so much to find the perfect timing to get that bullet time, because there's just multiple knockups.
Here we go, though. Engage comes out. It's going to be AHQ using 3 members. River, though, is going to be the new target. Gets the Cataclysm down, but in the end, is it enough? Candy, though, with a huge flank, is able to find 3 members with the Emperor's Divide. And with that, it's a double kill for this Azir. And Candy is putting on a clinic after watching Apex do the same to his squad. And now they're going to go ahead, jump in onto Civ, able to at least try and chase down this Ornn once again, able to at least get the dash off. And Talon, they're using a lot here to try and finish off this Ornn. Is it really necessary when you could turn away to other side of the map? No, it doesn't. Kaiwing is able to secure the kill. And Talon find another clean fight in their favor.
Wild. That was a flank where Candy manually walked around. That was... Candy still had teleport, and AHQ definitely did not see that coming at all, considering there was a couple of control wards around that area. And he came from topside, actually, and that was just the perfect flank, as everybody was focused on getting unified since he was the huge problem in the past 2 team fights. But now, even if you eliminate the AD carry, Candy with a magnificent combo towards the Cataclysm and into the Emperor's Divide just shreds apart AHQ.
And we saw it again. If they're able to interrupt that misfortune mid-ultimate, she doesn't do a whole lot during the fight. She was able to get a, lingering kill as the Callista did fall in the very end, but Candy, with the help of River, tees him up and knocks him down. And with that, Talon continue to feel like they have tempo in this game. One thing they got to worry about, though, is it's going to be third Cloud Drake in favor of AHQ possibly on the next spawn, but it looks like Talon are feeling ready enough to try and go for these fights in around the Baron Pit.
And it's been looking pretty solid, because even though, let's just say, Unified has fallen or Candy has fallen, as long as either or is still alive and untouched, and there's a lot of PL to work with too, considering that AHQ still has to worry about Hanabi's impact into the game. Already has that Bork and Cleaver completed. And for Talon, just gotta see and wait for Wacko being in range of all of the CC chain that Talon can deal constantly until the carries die.
So there we go. Cloud Drake spawning in 15 seconds. Talon already looking to set themselves up. Note here is GA was completed on the Misfortune this time around, so she will have a second life. No GA available here on the side of Talon. Unified does have that Rune Anzel. It's going to help with the damage output on the Callista. Nice little bit of damage. Dragon now 4,000 health. Candy's able to help shred that apart very fast. The Dragon is secured and denied away from AHQ.
Now for AHQ, they're still staying. They want to start a fight.
I've seen this before. This looked exactly the same as the last fight that took place 5 minutes ago. This time around, though, it looks like AHQ were the ones that were able to at least take down the second-tier Talon. Kongyu at least trying to chase down Unified. Has to be careful because Candy is nearby. Hanabi separated. AHQ, they feel like they need to find something off that Dragon play. But luckily for them, Talon aren't even going to try and respond, even though they could catch out lone members of AHQ if they're not careful. It's still 11-8. Another 4 minutes until we have another Dragon Dance. Baron, though, is available.
Yeah, I have a feeling that for AHQ, they wanted to make maybe a pincer perhaps, but saw it was kind of hard to encircle and trap Unified and Candy over there, and decided to just save this Guardian Angel for possibly this Baron fight. If either teams get a little bit too antsy waiting for the next objective to spawn in 4 minutes, more or less, as Talon establishing a lot of control over this Baron pit. We'll have to see, because HQ can just be a little bit patient and use Apex's bombs to poke a little bit. Problem is, Talon just has a lot of ways to get into the fight and dive, which sort of rendering the poke useless, because again, Talon can just press that go button.
We'll see, goal difference. Back and forth, Talon have been able to find themselves a small advantage, but again, it's only 1,000 now. It doesn't really matter at this point. Candy's just going to go ahead and clear out Vision while he can. Have to wait for that pillar to actually drop down before he feels safe once again. Talon just look to try and clear out what they can. One thing for AHQ they have to be careful about is the fact that Talon can absolutely shred this Baron if given the opportunity. They have an Azir. They also have a Callista that's running Bork, so decent amount of attack speed will be able to shred down that objective if they're not careful. Looks like AHQ, they're just going to be satisfied, at least clearing out a little bit of Vision. And Talon, well, they don't really gain a whole lot here as they're all heading back to base. Hanabi still pushing in bot lane.
And no one can exactly deal with Hanabi. You have to invest a couple of resources just to maybe put a hold on towards this Renekton pick, considering he's already completed his 3 items, Merc Treads, and as well as the Death Dance. So it's going to be extra difficult. But now for Talon, they have first dibs on this Baron. While AHQ will decide to just try and be reactive, wait for Talon to start that Baron.
We'll see here. There you go. Baron has been started on the side of Talon. So they're able to shred that down rather quickly. It's also going to be a teleport here from Hanabi. Apex getting a little bit too late for that ultimate. Able to get a decent amount down, but it's just not enough. And now, ensuing fight is AHQ able to clean up. Call of Force God able to land onto its mark. A nice interruption on the bullet time, but they take down River immediately. And Talon, they don't feel confident enough to try and go for this fight.
Hanabi.
Candy is still in the back line. Hanabi's trying to do what he can, but Candy, he needs to pull the trigger. He needs to find the play. Emperor's Divide able to find one, but it's not enough, and Unify gets caught out by the bomb of Apex, and Talon throw away the game once again, and with the teleport in mid lane, HQ are looking for the finish.
Apex has a lot of tools to just try and remove towers on and on, even using the ult to clear the minions and make these whole waves survive and tank the next Nexus tower.
And there you go. Towers are going to start falling, and AHQ, off one good team fight, are able to secure the victory. Talon, maybe they waited a little bit too long. Maybe they just did not respect it. Either way, one fight costs you, and that's going to be AHQ taking home the victory here in Game 3.
I'm going insane. That was the first game ever where we saw between these two teams having to lose at Baron and not having that second last stand. That was just crucial. And I did mention that maybe if they manage to eliminate Wako, then it's kind of game over in the team fights. But eventually, you know, they ignored Apex too much. Like, he survived throughout the whole match, throughout the whole team fight. And eventually they managed to get chip damage until they're all very insanely low already.
Yeah, we saw there, it required Candy to have to make another hero play, and unfortunately for the side of Talon, it just seemed like they were all pretty disconnected, and they all just did not want to fight, except one or two of their initiators. And they said, well, we have to fight. We got Baron. We should be fighting. And it's like, you know, you should just be happy taking what you can. It kind of goes back to what you said during their Game 2 performance, where it feels like they're just getting a little bit too greedy.
Yeah, it feels like which is understandable in this fight in particular, because they've been winning every single 5v5 leading up to this Baron, except that, you know, Wako had GA, and then you saw how, just as you mentioned, sort of disconnected Talon was. No one wanted to start the fight, and you saw Kaiwing already getting chunked down, with Talon having to move backwards, with UC River initiating attempt number 2, but none of the carries were in range of any sort of follow-up.
Yeah, you saw there, like, it just comes down to this last second play from Candy where he's like, all right, I guess I'll try and make this happen, but at that point, it was just too late. I get that they felt confident enough that they were able to interrupt the bullet time, and that's always been kind of their go button when it comes to their team fights, especially during Game 3, but unfortunately it ends up costing them, and like that, AHQ are now in position to close out the series possibly in Game 4.
Yeah, and I am actually, you know, Apex so far has been just making a huge impact, and looking back at the replay, it was definitely the bombs that scared away Talon, having to move backwards to be out of range of the bouncing bombs. And because of that, it just gave little window for Talon to even try and trade back the damage.
Now the question becomes, all right, Talon, what do you have up your sleeve? Because it's now do or die, especially considering they've been in this situation before against AHQ, where AHQ were, again, one game from at least knocking them down to the lower bracket. This time, they're one game away from knocking them out of playoffs completely and advancing into our grand final against Machi Esports tomorrow. What do you have? What is going to be your answer here? Because they've now shown 2 games back-to-back where you're just not able to play up against Apex on these control mages.
And the thing is, this is a completely different chain of events, because their losses that Talon acquired back then during their first matches against HQ and Machi were them not winning the early game. 2 consecutive games that they have managed to get an early lead, they're not able to finish off the game. So this is very, very different. But of course, Kongye on this Trundle as the MVP.
Yeah, it was a little bit more proactive than what we've seen of the Trundles here so far, especially in the early game. Helped secure the early kill in bot lane and really put Unified down to start things off in the first 10 minutes of the game. So congratulations over to Kongi as he's able to secure himself another MVP. He's feeling all cute and happy himself, but can't be doing that just yet, as you still have one more game to try and knock out Talon Esports from playoffs. And question becomes, do we get ourselves 5 games out of this series? It's been kind of the trend when it comes to Talon, and will they be able to answer here in Game 4?
The thing is, we've never seen Talon in this sort of situation before, where they've got 2 games with huge leads, but unable to cleanly finish the game, as they've been, just as we mentioned, being insanely wanting to get more than what was intended. So again, they've managed to ban out a couple of key picks from Apex, so we'll have to see if that's going to be the same trend for the next game.
Yeah, we'll see. You saw a lot of those, niche picks being banned out.
Zillion.
Like, the Zillion, the Vel'Koz, all that. We'll see what the plan is for Talon as they are facing elimination from playoffs. Will they be able to turn things around and force that Game 5, or will AHQ lock in their ticket to the final?